How's it going, everybody? This is Wayne with Travis Hartman. I have the pleasure today of having a special guest of In This Corner with weighing in with Travis Hartman. His name is none other than Shane Mosley Jr. How's it going, brother?
Oh, it's going great, brother. Thank you for having me on.
So I've been reading. So are you actually located out in Vegas or are you in California? Where is your residence at right now? Is it in California or Vegas?
I'm in Vegas right now.
You're in Vegas. I love it, dude. Vegas is nice for sure. It's a little hot out there right now.
Very hot. Little hot is an understatement, man.
So I don't even want to waste any time, man. I want to go right to this. You just had, in my opinion, your biggest win of your career. You just fought and beat Daniel Jacobs. And what people don't realize is you've been campaigning at middleweight. You went up to super middleweight, which is 168, to fight Daniel Jacobs. First
Yes,
of
I did.
all, congratulations on the win. How does it feel
Thank you
right
so
now?
much. It's incredible, man. Like you said, he's going to be inducted in the Hall of Fame one day, and going to be a
Without
Hall
a
of
doubt.
Famer, without a doubt. Like no, there's no doubt about it. And I have the last fight on his career and the last loss on his career. So I'm super duper excited about that. I mean, he was looking forward to um, like kind of revamping his career again. And I put a stop to that. So to say that I was, the fighter that did that is incredible. What I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can't get any better than that. And yes, I did move up to 168 to make that fight happen.
So right now I'm looking at your record. You kind of got a late start. You started boxing when you were about 15. And you had quite a bit of amateur fights, but I'm looking at your pro record. You're 22-4 right now with 12 KOs, but three of your four losses were either by a split decision or majority decision. So obviously you're fighting good people and you're not getting blown out. And now you're on what, a 5-fight win streak with a victory
So
now over a guy. This is what people don't realize about Daniel Jacobs. Daniel Jacobs has probably been he was super close to beating Canelo Alvarez. That fight with Canelo Alvarez, Daniel Jacobs gave Canelo Alvarez all he wanted and some. So the fact that
yeah.
now you got to beat a guy who's been in the ring and beaten, Hall of Famers himself, Daniel Jacobs, and now you've beaten him. Do you plan to stay at 168 now and campaign there? I know that you, like I said, you've been campaigning at middleweight. Now you beat Daniel Jacobs, who was by far a Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer for sure, former world champion, all of that. You're only 34 years old, I believe. So are you going to campaign at 68 or will you go back down to 160?
I'm going back down to 160. I want to be middleweight undisputed world champion, right? All those fights that I would want at 168 mean much more when I become a champion and an undisputed champion, right? They just mean much more. So, and I'm more valuable to everything and everybody moving forward, right? So it means more to get that. And then how many people could say that they were, undisputed middleweight champion? Not that many. So,
Bernard
uh,
Hopkins, which is a great place to be. And if you can even get me mentioned in that conversation. So Bernard Hopkins is a former undisputed middleweight champion of the world. So I agree with you. Like that's how do you turn a guy down that is now the middleweight, undisputed middleweight champion of the world? And now he's moving up and he wants to fight. That's a Canelo fight written all over it, bro, at 168.
100%. And it means much more to everybody involved, right? So that's why I want to, or even if when I get the world championship, right? When I get that world title shot and I get that title fight and I win, now let's just say for whatever reason, I feel like I can't make the weight no more, right? I'm still middleweight champion. So I go up, I'm
Yeah.
middleweight champion. If I'm just Shane Mosley, Jr. fighting, moving up at 168, it's like, oh yeah, you're Shane Mosley Jr. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, okay, cool. But if I'm, middleweight champion Shane Mosley Jr., it's like, okay, I think the Danny Jacobs thing gives me a little bit more, status. It puts a little bit more respect on my name. Definitely for people outside of boxing, they go, "Oh, wow, you beat Danny Jacobs," or even people in boxing, "Wow, man, you beat Danny Jacobs. Like, that's cool." And one thing to say, and not just to toot my own horn, but I'm, just kind of putting it out there, is that nobody had ever shut out Daniel Jacobs. Daniel Jacobs in one scorecard, it was 10-0.
Yeah, I saw
Like,
that. The
like,
other two were 9-1, though. So even like
yeah,
better, bro.
yeah. I'm like, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, who's ever done that to him? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, people could say, oh, like, because some people like, there's been boxing people out there that obviously that think highly of me. and they say, oh, well, you could have knocked him out, or you could have stopped him. You should have stopped him. You already like you could have, all this other stuff, which
Shoulda, coulda,
I
woulda.
of course, which I agree with, right? I don't take nothing from them. I do respect their opinion, but I can say this: those guys that he fought, that he lost to, which one of them shut him out? Zero.
None, none. Yeah.
None of them shut him out. So thank you. Like I did that.
No, listen, that's not tooting your own horn. And this is the good part about that is this is the boxing world. We know that you're a humble guy anyway, we know that, but it's telling the truth, right? That's the truth.
Right.
You shut him out, and that deserves to be mentioned. I mean, that's a big deal. You shut out a former world champion, a Hall of Famer, a guy who's been in the ring with guys like Canelo, and also the guy's the first cancer survivor, I believe, to come back and beat cancer and win a world title. The guy is historic.
Twice.
Twice. The guy's historic. He's a phenomenal story. And, it kind of does. So with that being said as well, when you're in the ring and you're beating him, what does that feel like? Does that ever cross your mind, even in the slightest, when you're getting the best of him? Do you start to think about that a little bit? Like, oh my gosh, like this sucks. I'm beating up on a guy who like beat cancer. He's coming back. He's doing all that. What's going through your head in that moment?
Well, luckily, I had good information from my coach. He told me, he said, Shane, don't be surprised when it's easy. He literally told me this verbatim. Like
I
he
like
told me
that. I
this
like
before the
that.
fight. He told me this during the fight. He said, I told you, but don't be surprised when it gets easy. Don't fall asleep. The only way this guy could beat you is if he knocks you out. He catches you with something and knocks you out. And yes, that's why he has 30 plus knockouts on his record. The
He
dude
could
hits hard.
punch.
Yes, he can. And I felt it. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't want to get caught slipping with this. So with that being said, I had that in my corner. I had that in my head the whole entire time. Don't fall asleep on this guy because the only way that he can beat you is knocking you out.
All gas, no brakes, bro. And I think you
Yeah.
pulled it off that way. I mean, you knew going in there that this guy, that's the thing is he might have been older, whatever. He's retiring now, all that stuff. But at the same time, that guy's still dangerous at all times. They say that power is one of the last things to go in any kind of fighter. So he always has that power, which means that's where I was trying to explain this to the average fan. And think about this. This is the beauty and the beast of boxing is you're in a football game, NFL. You're up 21 points. You just run the clock out at that point, right? You don't, it's cruise control. It doesn't even matter. You literally hold the ball, you run it, you run the clock out. Basketball, you're up 20 or 30 points. You can run the clock out. Boxing, you could be up 9 rounds to 0. You can't just run the clock out in the 10th because the guy's coming, right? You can get caught with that punch, get knocked out. I remember there was a fighter who got knocked out in the 10th round. He was winning all 9 rounds, winning the 10th round, fell asleep for a second and got clipped and knocked out cold, loses the fight.
Yeah.
That's where boxing to me, and obviously I'm biased because I'm a boxer myself, but that's what makes boxing special to me is you have to finish fights. You can't just
100%.
you can't just put the brakes on and coast it out. You have to finish a fight. And that's what you did. You finished literally a future Hall of Famer, bro. And you possibly finished his career.
I mean, it would look that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would look that way. You
As
know what
of
I mean?
right
Like,
now, he retired after that fight, which is the guy had a phenomenal career, so it is what it is. But I want to ask you this: I saw an interview where it said you were actually offered a fight with Carlos Adames. Was that before the
yes.
Daniel Jacobs fight? And what made you end up turning that down and choosing the Daniel Jacobs fight over him? Because that's a world title,
So,
right?
so what essentially happened is that um, his people reached out to my people. We had been talking because I had been wanting to get this Lara fight for the longest time. Like I've been wanting Lara since, I've been in the top 10, right? I've been
Which,
wanting to
by the
fight
way,
Lara
is
for
crazy. We'll talk about that later too. Lara's legit too, but go for it. Go ahead. Finish your statement.
100%. So I've been wanting to fight him for the longest time. So the same person that manages or promotes, or I don't know how that whole structure works, but whoever deals with him is the same person that deals with Carlos Adames. So I, you know, basically my manager has been going back and forth with his, manager or representative about like, hey, like we want this fight, we want this fight, we want this fight. And so he goes, he's probably not going to be available, but maybe Adamas might be available. So he goes, my manager goes, all right, perfect. So um, one day he hits him up and it's like, hey, do you think Shane is still interested in fighting Carlos Adamas? My manager doesn't blink. He goes, yes, we are. Right. He knew that if that type of fight came up, we take it. We don't need to
All
ask no
in.
questions. Yes. Yes. Right. That's why we're here. You know what I mean? I'm 34
Exactly.
years old. But yes. Right. So with that being said, we said yes to the fight. Um, he goes, cool. Call these people because it wouldn't be on a PBC card. It'd be on a at the time we didn't know what it was like, but it come to find out Famio, right?
Yep.
It would be on this other card. So call up the matchmaker, tell them that I essentially sent you and that we want to make this fight happen on their card. So cool. As he's on the phone with him, right, with the matchmaker of the other card, the guy goes, "Hey, do you uh, do you have anybody at 168 available for a Daniel Jacobs?" And my manager goes, "Yeah, Shane." he
Sign
goes,
me up.
he goes, "Oh wow." He goes, "I actually really like that fight. I actually like that fight better than the Carlos Adames fight." Cool. Now, because we had to go through the process of everything, we had to go through the process of the Carlos Adames thing because we kind of already like went down
Started
that
the
road.
negotiation.
And then they wanted to go and look for somebody for him. So I told my manager, you know, essentially, worst come to worst, like I would rather fight Daniel Jacobs, you know. And so he had said that to the guy, but they were still kind of like, all right, we're still going to look for somebody for Daniel Jacobs, and we want to make this fight happen. We want both of those fights to happen on the card. Apparently, from one of the sources, they had said that Carlos Adames had, and this is their words, not mine. He had asked for an ungodly amount of money to be on the card,
Yeah.
so it kind of like defaulted him out.
Yeah.
And
Priced himself
so
out.
yeah, so essentially, I had said I'd rather fight him, but he priced himself out anyway. So that fight wasn't going to happen. And then I said, well, I would have rather fought him anyway. If you think about it, who knows Carlos Adames? Like if I told a room full of people who I
Nobody.
was fighting, nobody would know who it was, right?
Yep.
Even though he's a middleweight champion.
Yep.
But if I told you Daniel Jacobs, they go, oh wow, you fight Daniel Jacobs? And that's what
Exactly.
happened. So that's kind of how it happened, right? And then once he kind of defaulted himself out, I think there might have been negotiations for Caleb Plant to fight Daniel
Jacobs.
Jacobs, but again, I don't know what happened with that. I didn't
Yeah.
ask about that because I just assumed that whatever fell out. But it ended up being they said they'd rather pay me to fight him because obviously I'm probably a lot cheaper than Caleb Plant.
Which
You
is fair,
know,
he's a pay-per-view guy. So yeah, that's understandable.
right? So you go, okay, well, I can get a pretty good fight for way less money. Cool. Probably gonna do that.
So with that being said, you fought on the Jorge Masvidal versus Nate Diaz undercard. And as you
Yeah.
know, I've been watching that. So was it Fanmio is the name of it, right?
Yeah.
Supposedly they didn't pay Nate Diaz what he was promised. Now, have you had any problems collecting your purse from that fight, or have you been legit? You're all whole and you're good.
No, so everybody that I know, like literally everybody that I know, that I met and that have befriended because of that whole process has gotten paid. Like literally everybody. Um, Now, I think there was some discrepancy on how they went about the business and how maybe Nate was relayed he was going to be getting paid, right? I
Okay.
think that he just thought that the check was going to show up in his bank account that next, on that Monday.
Yeah, which
You
is
know what
like
I mean?
$10 million. It doesn't work that way on pay-per-view, especially.
Yeah, it's kind of like in waves, right? Like you get it,
Yeah.
okay, we're gonna do
Yeah.
this, we're gonna get like, and we're gonna, and I think he expected it a certain way, and now, that it didn't go that way, he's gonna have to go through the legal process, unfortunately,
Yeah.
unless like if he filed that, he's gonna have to go and do the
Yeah.
legal
And he
process
did.
as far as it takes it, and that might cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, it might not have been the best thing, to do for him, like so
So
sporadically.
fast. Like he did it really fast. Like I feel like it was less than a week and he was like, boom, file the lawsuit. And he did. He
Yeah,
actually,
like
so lawsuit, you can look it up. He filed the lawsuit, like actual lawsuit, like ASAP.
yeah. And so, yeah, I'm not really sure why that was, but like I said, everybody that I knew and that I had befriended and that I spoke to about it, because obviously this was something that got brought up. Everybody was like, "Hey, man, you got paid? Like, you got paid?" Because you
Yeah.
know what I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, like yeah, we all in the group together, and one of the guys, the main guy in the group, didn't get
Yeah.
says he didn't get paid. Then we go to the rest of the group. Hey, man, you got paid? You got paid? You got
Because it could
paid?
get scary. It could get a little
Yeah,
scary.
yeah. It's man, everybody I like that I spoke to and that was in the group, got paid. So no complaints on my side.
Well, I mean, that's good. Then you don't know any more than on his side, which is fine, but you guys all got taken care of. So that's my next question as well. So do you feel like that was a well-run atmosphere? Because that's the first time FanMio that I know of has done a pay-per-view boxing, no?
The other pay-per-view boxing that they did was the Floyd Mayweather and Logan Paul.
Okay. Down in Miami. Okay. So
Yep.
like
So
so
they
they
did
have a
that.
little they have a little bit of a history, kind of, right? I mean, that was an
Yeah.
exhibition, but yeah,
I think that they like doing these kind of, I don't know what you would call them. Um,
like niche type of fights or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, like what I mean, like these
They're
types
not.
of events where they're not like boxing
Yeah.
promotion. They're like specialty boxing
It's a little bit of
promotion.
gimmick, some entertainment. Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? I think that that's kind of what it is, right? Like even with like my fight, right? It's like the legend against the Hall of Fame, the son of the legend. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
it's kind of a gimmick fight. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
right? It's like,
So it's been going on
and
for years, you know what I mean? It's promotion, right? So that leads me
of
into the next
course.
question, though, which is awesome, is that so I saw you at the Jake Paul versus Mike Perry fight over in Tampa. Awesome seeing you
Yeah.
and your father as well. But that just leads me to the question about Jake Paul and his promotion and how he's doing things. I get asked this question so much because I'm a pro boxer for almost 20 years now. Since 2004, I've been a pro boxer. They always ask me, like, don't you hate what Jake Paul's doing? Can you believe he's disrespecting boxing? I'm like, not really, man. Like, so my question to you is, how do you feel about how Jake Paul's going about what he's doing in professional boxing?
He is, in my opinion, respecting boxing like no other. I mean, I feel like he is a professional when it comes to, his business. He's a professional when it comes to the fights. He handles his business. Now, obviously, with his platform, he's able to utilize that and get fights that are catching to the audience, right? He's fighting Mike Perry, the bare knuckle champion, right? Like it's like
Yeah.
that's cool. That's exciting for people to put on. Now for the local promoter that maybe having or like a lot of promoters out there may not want to do that because of maybe budget or like a whole bunch of things, but that he knows that that's going to get him a lot of eyes, audience, butts and seats. I mean, within 4 weeks, he filled up the Amy, I think it's called the Amy Arena,
Amalie Arena, yeah.
the Emily Arena at 17,500 people. You know how difficult that is to get in
Yeah.
4 weeks to sell out an arena. It is insane.
Yep.
Like, and it's because of the genius of who he's picking. Right now, is he fighting the best boxers ever? No, but he is because there's many guys. I have a few MMA fighters on my record as well, like
Yep.
guys that fought MMA, fought like whatever they can because they're just trying to make a career out of something, right?
Yep.
They fought whatever they bare knuckle, they fought whatever they could, Muay Thai, you name it.
Yep.
And there's a lot of guys out there in the beginning of their careers or at the beginning of a let's say a prospect's career that they fight these guys. I
Yep.
mean, like Devin Haney, for instance, he's fought like probably a whole bunch of taxi drivers in Mexico, and he was the undisputed lightweight champion. right? So it's like, who's to say that like, oh, so he's not a real fighter because he fought those guys? No, he is a real fighter, but he fought those guys because that's kind of the process. You got to build your record, you got to
Yeah.
get your understanding and get your awareness in the ring, get the feeling of what it's like to be in there with a whole bunch of people in an arena. There's a whole bunch of aspects to that, but like you have to cultivate that. Now, he had a obviously a big following, so you got to utilize that following. And so I applaud him for taking on these MMA guys and knocking them out and beating them. And
Right.
like these MMA guys, no, they're not boxers, but they're athletes and they're
Some
fighters.
of our world champion combat veterans, like
100%. Like you talking about, he knocked out Tyron Woodley. I will never, ever, ever, ever get over
that was at Emily
like
Arena.
yeah, but I'll never get over that because you knock out a UFC legend face first. I don't care. You know how difficult that is?
It's
That is,
extremely difficult.
I don't care who you are. That's a hard, hard thing to do. And he did it. And he has a bunch of these on his record. So he's cultivating a skill set within this, oh, he's not a real boxer, right? He's cultivating that in while you all talking mess about him, while you all getting jealous because you wish you could do it. I guarantee any boxer or any person out there, if you can do that and get paid as much money as he's getting paid, you wouldn't blink.
100%.
Because I'm one of those guys. If I can even do that and fight
Yeah.
random, UFC fighters and get paid that stuff, 100% I would do it. Because at the end of the day, I'm a fighter and I'm entertaining people and I want to grow my fan base. Because if you don't have fans, if you don't have people in them seats, it don't really matter how great you are.
100%.
That's the truth. That's the truth of the matter. It don't matter.
You made a good point, and this is what I've brought it up on the podcast many times. It's there's a favorite, I think his name is Ben Shapiro. He always says facts over feelings. If you can get out of your feelings when it comes to Jake Paul, you will see exactly what he's doing. And it's actually pretty brilliant on his face. So Floyd Mayweather's 9th pro fight, he fought a guy who was 1-13. Okay. Do you think they gave him as much grief for doing that in his 9th pro fight? No, because he wasn't making very much money. He didn't know how to promote himself at the time. And now Floyd Mayweather is one of the biggest businessmen ever, right? But Jake Paul's learning how to do it faster than anybody else did. And before people jump on me, I'm not comparing Jake Paul to Floyd Mayweather because there's no comparison when it comes to the boxing part of it, right? None. But when you talk about the business aspect of it, Jake Paul has learned how to make $10 million in his 9th or 10th pro fight. Pretty phenomenal.
Well, if you think about this, it's actually really genius when it goes like, because no, he's not Floyd Mayweather. But when you think about the fact that this man is getting work experience at a high level, because literally almost every single fight he's ever had has been a sold out fight and
Crazy.
has been against essentially a legend or somebody of high caliber. I mean, we got to talk about Anderson Silva, Tyron Woodley twice. We got
Nate
Ben
Diaz.
Askren, Nate Diaz. We're talking about like when you talk about MMA, we're talking about the killers like Mike Perry. I mean, he's fought Tommy Fury.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's got high quality things. So when he gets to that championship level, you think he's going to be nervous? You think he's going to be looking over at that person and go, I haven't been here before?
Oh, he's straight. Yeah.
If exactly. And that's what some happens to even some young prospects and people that have been in, in the game for a long time. They get to that championship level or they get to there when the lights are on, when, when it's the big event and they're the main event and they don't show up. Right. And so do you think he's going to have that problem moving forward?
Absolutely.
Or when
not.
he gets to that championship fight?
Yeah.
No. And you know what I mean? Like if you even think like, I mean, he's smart. I mean, you have guy you fought, Chavez Jr.
Oh, yeah,
on the
yeah.
card. Why do you think he's there? Why do you think
100%.
why do you think that they would put a guy like him on the undercard?
Yeah, they're smart, dude. The marketing is smart. They're trying to build up a fight because Chavez Jr. and all of his faults was also a world champion at one time. How good
100%.
does that look for Jake Paul? If he beats now, he's going to beat a former world champion boxer. And honestly, after seeing Chavez Jr. fight that night too, Paul's got a really good shot at beating this guy. So then what are people going to say?
And then because if you think about this, because the Tyson fight is already set, right?
Yep.
No matter what happens, the Tyson fight is already set, and whatever happens after the Tyson fight, you think there's probably a thing because all promoters do it is that they put a fight on in May, right? Guess who they'd put there in that moment right there? Maybe for a title shot after he fought. You know what I mean? Look,
So
let's
good, but
just
yeah.
say,
Yeah.
let's just say. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there because this is
Yeah.
how boxing works. You've been in the game
Yep.
for a long time.
Yep.
Because he's a championship level fighter, which is Chavez Jr. He essentially could fight for a belt, right? And he's kind of always qualified there. You know what I mean? So with that being said, you get a guy that wants to fight for a title. Maybe a interim title comes up, or maybe one of the champions fall out. And you go, you know what? Let's put these guys there, right?
Yeah.
May is a while away. Anything could happen, and that could be a possibility of a fight, right? At cruiserweight. Holy crap! You know what I mean?
It's brilliant marketing, man. And people they're not, like I said, if you want to just pull yourself back and pull your emotions away from Jake Paul, the person, and look at what they're doing, it's pretty trend setting, man. Like these guys are going against the grain and they're changing the landscape of a lot of stuff. And again, like I said, I'm not against it because I think Jake Paul works his butt off. Okay. He takes his licks like a man. And that's what I respect about it. And I know that your dad actually was training Jake Paul a little bit in the beginning and has kind of helped a little bit towards the end. But
Yep.
that brings me to the next question is, how come you were all the way out in Tampa? I mean, you're flying all the way from Vegas to watch Jake Paul fight Mike Perry.
Oh man, I was, so the thing is, man, um, I my contract with Golden Boy is coming to an end. Um, we'll see where that goes, but eventually you're gonna have to, if nothing comes about, you're gonna have to eventually find another spot, or you're gonna have to find another place to do business. And so I like it. I mean, I like what they're doing. I like that they were able to put on an event within weeks and
A
then see it.
pay-per-view event, not just an event, a pay-per-view, like a
Exactly.
DAZN pay-per-view.
And be able to put on that type of crowd and that type of an event. And it was a great event. Great fights. I mean, the local boys did great. I think it was Marksman.
Corey
Marksman.
Marksman. Yeah, he was on the podcast
Man,
as well.
that dude is great. He's gonna be something. If he stays consistent, he's got something. And even his opponent, like they're great fighters. I mean, they put on probably one of the best fights of the night. You know what I mean?
I
So
said that going in, man. I actually watched their first fight because that was a rematch. I was ringside for their first fight, and I predicted everybody. I was like, listen, this is going to be the best fight, and it's bar none to be the best fight. And Ashton Sylvia actually fought on the card that I went to when they fought, I believe, the first time. And I was like, this is going to be the fight of the night. And they're like, you're crazy, Trap. It was the fight of the night. And technically, I think you're not wrong. I think they possibly could have been the fight of the night over in Tampa as well. The quality skills they showed, the grit they showed, you could tell both guys knew how to fight. You could tell both guys wanted to win, and they're quality guys. Like both of them, their skill level
yeah.
was quality. You're not wrong, dude. I think they put on a quality event, top to bottom.
I mean, obviously, the guy that fought Sylv, Ashton, he got the knockout, obviously,
Yeah.
and that was very dramatic. That would be a great, like it was a great knockout, but not a great, like, I mean,
He was
because
dominating
it
that fight, to be fair.
it wasn't competitive, right?
No,
Like it
no,
wasn't like
it wasn't.
like I wouldn't say he got lucky, but he definitely was losing the fight
Yep.
and got him with a great shot. He obviously has a lot of power. What is he, 17 wins with 15 knockouts, you know what I mean? Like the guy obviously
Undefeated guy.
punches
Yep.
hard.
Yep.
Yeah. So with that being said, but he was getting beat pretty easily until that knockout.
Every round, probably.
So Yeah. So with that being said, it's like it wasn't really a competitive fight until he got the knockout. So I wouldn't say that that was the best fight because it was like, yeah, he cracked him with a shot and knocked him out.
Phenomenal knockout. And I think you're right. Like top to bottom though, like the whole fight, no, it wasn't the best fight. Like I actually stopped watching it. I was ringside. Like I was 7 rows on the other side. And I actually, to be fair, I was like, oh, Ashton Sylvie's winning about 4 or 5 rounds.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
I kind of dozed off, not dozed off, but I started chatting with people around me
yeah, because
and was just like,
because you yeah, you kind of think, okay, like we're it's about to like, in my opinion, it was like he was about to get knocked out any second. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, because like I mean, he's leaking through his nose and all this stuff. I'm like, okay, like at some point he's gonna get knocked out. Like you said, I looked over for a second and boom, boom, and then I hear, I'm like,
yeah,
wait, I missed
I
it.
know, I
Damn.
know. I didn't see it either, dude. I got up, I'm like, and then I saw him laying there, bro. And I was like,
Yeah.
as a boxer myself, it was everybody was excited at first, but then I seen him still laying there. I was like, oh crap. I got up and I was like, God, please start moving, bro. Cause I was like, people like we don't want to talk about it. And I know that no boxer likes to talk about it, but death happens in the ring, man. Like this is not a sport to joke with. Like shit like that really happens. And like I was actually a little worried because he wasn't moving for a good
Oh
like
yeah.
minute to 2 minutes. And I was like,
No, he
bro.
was
And then
he was
finally he was out. Like he was out.
he took some really bad punishment. Well, I mean, like as far as that knockout, it was really really bad. I was kind of disappointed that he didn't go to the hospital right away.
Oh shit, he
Um,
didn't, huh?
no, he didn't because I took a picture with him afterwards, talked to him a little bit afterwards. And I just told him like, look, man, like don't worry about this. Like you're gonna get over it. Like all those things. You still gotta, you know, what I mean, like don't
It's
worry, you were
one
doing great.
loss. One
Yeah,
loss.
but you were doing great. We got hit with a shot. It happens. It happens to the best of us. Right. So don't worry about it. Just stay confident. But in the same breath is I shouldn't have been having that conversation with him because your ass should have been in the hospital. And I understand you
Immediately.
want to, I understand that you might have been wanting to be there for your teammates, right? Or
Yeah.
you wanted to be there for all of that. But if something happens to you or happens, yeah, while you're there, it don't matter. Like you're that you can't save nobody else. You can't help
No.
nobody else
No.
if you can't even be in the team if you have a traumatic brain injury.
Hundred percent, man.
So you need to get to somebody at least for them to check you out and make sure everything is functional because you might be able to what I mean save something if you get there sooner. So that was the only thing that I was kind of worried about. But they said he did make it to the doctor afterwards, but immediately he didn't go.
So you've obviously your father is Shane Mosley. We know this because you're Shane Mosley Jr., but Hall of Famer, been in the ring with the best, beat Oscar De La Hoya twice, all of that stuff. Something that I noticed at this fight was the stands were packed well before the main event. And usually you don't see that in pay-per-views. Like people will show. So like that's what I'm trying to say. Jake Paul's bringing a different crowd and I think it's awesome. Like I don't think it's like dude, I sat right behind the Hawk Tua girl.
Right.
Remember like as crazy as that is, it is what it is, whatever. But like I said behind her, Hulk Hogan was right over in front of me as well. Like, look at that. If you think about that, put that in your mind. Hawk Tua, who most people probably don't even know. If they do, now they probably know. But then also Hulk Hogan. Like that's the broad spectrum of people this guy's bringing to the sport. And I'm talking about Jake Paul. And all these people were there. Well, I mean, hours before the main event, which to
Right.
me, you know this too, growing up with it. The pay-per-view fights, nobody shows up until literally right before the main event, essentially, most of the time. You see it on way back in the day, HBO pay-per-view fights. The stands were empty until like maybe 1 or 2 fights before the main event. Jake Paul had the stadium packed hours before he fought. Like,
Well, so I think that it's to what we're talking about, right? The best fight of the night was early on, right?
Corey
And
Marchman and
yeah,
Tony Aguilar.
exactly. And you got local guys that will obviously bring a crowd and then also be very, very fan friendly to everybody buying this. And then there was a lot of others on there, right? That we got Chavez Jr. versus Uriah Hall, which is
Yep.
like also a great fight. You know what I mean? Like you just even on paper, you go, oh, but wow, I didn't even know they could fight each other, and
Yeah.
then they're fighting each other, right? And you know, personally, I thought Uriah Hall won. That was
Yeah.
just me. I mean, hey, I hear it, you know what I mean? Like, it was a close fight, but like the whole time Uriah Hall is pushing him forward. But that's a fight that somebody that if I just, told, like, hey, this fight is on. They'd be, oh dang, really? That's
Yeah.
on? Okay,
They
maybe
know
I'll
those
watch it.
names.
Right. And so that is kind of the genius of what he's doing. And I don't know if that's a budget thing for a lot of promoters where they don't want to maybe give up the budget in order to do that. I don't know if that's a what do they call that, like a stable thing, like where it's like I don't have the guys in order to facilitate a fight like this because I
Yeah.
don't have this guy because he's with such and such and it would cost XYZ to get it. Whereas like the UFC, like all of the UFC fighters, right, they go through a process to get in the UFC and they're all like high level guys,
Yeah.
right? So in order, like, I mean, then when you put them together, if they lose, it's like, oh, okay, well, they're still with me. I'm
Yep.
still,
Yep.
they can
Yep.
still
They're all
utilize
under
me.
one umbrella. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I mean, that may or may not be a great thing. I don't, I'm not really sure how that would work moving forward, but it does work for the UFC. That's why they're very consistent. That's why they have fights
Yeah.
every week. That's why people follow them and they're able to get on board with that. And that's why a lot of boxing, it's like, yeah, he might be really, really good, but I haven't been seeing him consistently. So you could tell
Right.
me, oh, he's a great fighter. He's 20-0, whatever the case is. But I don't know him. How do I know if he's good or if his record's padded? Because we know that that's a thing.
That is
So
a thing. You know that.
you can't really know these, and then if there's no familiarity with the audience and the people fighting, then how could they want to get on board? So with that being said, you have to get these names there on that card in order to kind of make that type of fight happen. And a lot of promoters used to do this, back in the day. I think that they've maybe fallen off a little bit, and it's not. I don't know if that's like I said. I don't know if that's a budget thing. I don't know if that's whether it's the opportunity as far as the people, or what. But I think that when you put these people together and put them on, um, and they have names, and you get people that are familiar with them, you're able to sell more. And that's what we need. We need
Yeah.
people to know because honestly, like it's like there's so much going on in the world
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is distracting. So what is going to make somebody stop and say, you know what, I want to waste my time on that?
Yep.
Because there's so many other options that I have, like so many other options. And so you have to make people intrigued in order to get on there. If not, something else is going to take their attention. And
So clearly you understand the business of boxing, and that's where the professional game. So when I fought in the amateurs, I thought the game was the most pure sport in the amateurs, meaning like I was just fighting to fight. And we always knew when nationals were, we always knew when everything was. And then when I turned pro, I got a rude awakening where like it wasn't all about that. Like I got called when I fought Terrence Crawford, I got called in 5 days notice. And I still went the distance with Terrence Crawford on 5 days notice. I fought Keith Thurman 5 days notice. Chavez Jr. actually did have notice, but I got sick down there. But regardless of that, my point is the business of boxing, of professional boxing, as you made a point earlier, and you're right, you have to be able to put butts in the seat, especially nowadays with the way social media has connected the world. It's also brought in a lot of distractions. Like you got to pick one thing that night to watch. Why do people want to watch boxing, or why do people want to watch you that night over the 9,000 other things going on in the world? Right. So it's tough. So what I'm leading to is this is you do get it business wise, right? You're with Golden Boy Promotions, which is Oscar De La Hoya, one of the biggest promoters in the world right now as well. And you're thinking that your contract's about to end. Whether is it
no,
this,
it's ending. Like
it's
it's
ending, it's ending.
technically speaking, it's already ended.
So with that being said, what's your next move then? So if you can envision your next, let's just say couple of years, who are you with? Who are you fighting? How does Shane Mosley Jr.'s career look the next couple of years?
Well, I would probably say that um, I may or may not be with Golden Boy. I couldn't imagine that I would be with Golden Boy and that they would move me in a direction that would be beneficial for me, right? I've been with them 4 years and they haven't done that yet. For whatever reason, I haven't had a headlining fight. I haven't had a, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I've always been kind of support for whatever it
Bro,
is that they're doing.
maybe Oscar is a little bit hurt that your dad beat him twice in the pros. I don't know.
You
I'm
know,
just saying.
I mean,
I'm joking, but
I mean, look, it could be a thing. You know what I mean? It could be. Who knows? But all I'm saying is that I do think that I hold value and that they could probably utilize me. And for whatever reason, it is said that, you know, oh, well, you know, you can only headline if you're fighting for a world title. So my next thing was like, all right, get me to a world title,
let's go.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. Get me to a world title. And that hadn't happened. So it was very, very difficult to like go through that. Now, with that being said, it's like, okay, if it's like you've gotten other people to that spot and they didn't have to fight, you know, a champion. I mean, Munguia, for instance, or
Yeah.
Virgil Ortiz, or I
Yep.
mean, I mean, Schofield. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, you know, they have this one guy. I think he's like 168 pounder. He's from Texas. Fogum. Anyways, um, he just fought Fantasy Springs. I think he was supposed to fight. Anyways,
I think I know what you're
he
talking about.
he had fought a main event at Fantasy Springs. They could put him Fantasy Springs, right? And you know, it's like, oh, it's the budget or it's whatever the case is. We don't have the budget for you, whatever the case is, right? If you fight on those, we don't budget is not that high for that.
Hmm.
But like we had talked about, it is about having the recognition, right? So if you put me as a headliner on these cards, then the next time I fight, it's like, okay, he was once a headliner, but you haven't made me a headliner yet.
Yep, yep.
Right. And even when, you know, I mean, even when I was at that level, you never had me as a headliner. So it was like, you know, to me, it's like, you must not see me as value in that area. Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's okay. You know what I mean? I'm fine with that. Just maybe I should go with somebody that does see me as a headliner, that does
Yeah.
see that they have
Show
value in
me a
me.
vision. Show me the vision for Shane Mosley Jr.'s career. And maybe Golden Boy hasn't shown you that vision yet, that what your career looks like. And like you said, you're 34. Like it's time to go. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think you're too old, but I mean, at the same time, it's like, I'm 34, bro. Let's go. You clearly have the talent. You just beat a legend in Daniel
Right.
Jacobs, like literally. And not even that.
Right.
I mean, you beat a guy like Gabe Rosado as well, who Gabe Rosado's a legit guy. Like that dude, his record might not show it, but Gabe Rosado's pretty legit. Like knocked out cold an undefeated guy who was supposed to be a top division guy, eventually a world champion. And Gabe Rosado just knocked him out like a couple of years ago. So like you fought a very tough Gabe Rosado too. So I
Right
agree.
after. I
Yeah,
fought him right.
I
But
know, and that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the cool part about it is that, like, this is what I like about you, Shane, is that you have a dad who is a Hall of Famer. And I know you probably get this all the time. I had you on this show because of you, by the way, obviously because of you. And I didn't want to talk about your dad much, but I think we need to talk about him a little bit, is that you're a Hall of Famer's son, right? Like, it's usually tough to live up to that kind of expectation a little bit. But have you felt that pressure? Have you felt that, like, you're trying to like fight out of a shell, essentially, which is, you know, your dad, Hall of Famer. They do beat Oscar De La Hoya twice, right? Former world champion, like in multiple divisions, multiple world champions. Have you felt that pressure, or how have you dealt with that in your pro career?
you know what? My dad always said, um, you fight you fight to be great and the money will come. And so I interpret that as if I fight to be great within myself, I will measure up to whatever expectation that I've ever had or anybody else has ever had for me. All I have to do is give the love to this sport and the love to what I do, and that will show. The chips will lay wherever they need to lay. And if that is enough, great. If it's not enough, great. It don't matter because it's mine, right? Like, like, like if you buy a house, you're not going to it and being like, oh yeah, it's not as good as my dad's house, or like he never had a house, or like, you know what I mean? It's like, this is just my house, bro. Like, and I just want to have a great house for my family and my kids. And if my dad wants to come over and enjoy my house, great. You can come over and enjoy the house too. Right? All I want is the house.
I got
So
you.
again, all I want is just that, to enjoy my life, be able to provide for my family, be able to have a great career in the sport that I absolutely love. That's given me everything. Like this sport has given me everything. So I want to give back to it. I want to be a part of its greatness. That's why I made the hats, make boxing great again. Right? It's because I want to be a part of the greatness that people see in it. And if that is legendary, cool. If that's just good, good. If it sucks, cool. I'm still part of it. You
Yeah,
know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Right? I just want to be a part of this sport that I love that's given me everything. And that's what I've always wanted. And so the big fights, all those things, hopefully I can get to those. You know what I mean? Hopefully I can get to all the big fights that I want and need and be a part of that.
So you've given me so much of your time tonight. Usually I don't even go this long, but I couldn't cut this off because it was well and I liked it all. But you alluded to something that I wanted to talk about. I talk about this with every single person that's on the podcast. I test and I ask their faith in God. And whether it's yes or no, it doesn't matter. But I want to know what your faith is. Do you believe in God? Do you believe where you're at is God? Or what is your belief system in that? Because like you said, you're thankful for where you're at, but also what's your belief?
So I would say that my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, I have a strong faith. I do believe that I am here because of him. I believe that he put me where I need to be at all times, right? And I think that having that faith and having that trust in him has helped me to become all that I need to become. Right? I can kind of let go of control, even for this fight. You know what I mean? Like this was I think the least nervous I've ever been for a fight, and it was just like I'm right where I need to be. Like I felt like I was like
I love that.
God had his God had his hands on me, and there was nothing I needed to worry about. That I had put in everything that I needed to do, and it was out of my hands now. Right? You know that that when it comes to these things outside of you, like you said, and like you talked about, right? You could be winning a fight and all of a sudden get knocked, right? Like Donald Trump was having a speech, and just because he was talking and turning, it just right.
Wow.
And so with that,
Wow.
right, right. And so with that being said, it's outside of our control. Like we don't control it. We might think that we have the control it, where we don't. We're just a spectator in it. You know what I mean? Like, and so of course you can control what you can control, but there's some things in certain areas um, that he has the master remote,
Yep.
right? And I think that fight with Danny Jacobs was one of those things where I just had to kind of like, all right, look, you let it happen. I hope that I can get this and take the wheel.
I love it, man. Shane, thank you so much, bro, for coming on the show. You got to come back on now that you've been here. You're an alumnus of Weighing In
100%.
with Travis Hartman. I pray for you and your family. I know that you have a wife and you have kids, and I love that. That's amazing. And I love the what you're doing. I support it all, man. Like I follow you,
Thank you.
obviously, and I'm going to continue following you. I love your
Thank you.
faith in God because I do believe I wouldn't be here as well if it wasn't for God. So I love that you share that too. I say this every
Yep.
time on the podcast. I'm not sure what I'm going to do when one of my podcast interviewees says they don't believe. I don't know what I'm going to do. I know that I'm supposed to understand that and pray for them, but I don't know what I'm going to do. I haven't had one person yet on the show that said they didn't believe. So I'm glad that you believe. And again, thank you for coming on the show, brother. Um,
Well,
I will pray
But
for,
let me say something about that.
yeah,
The
yeah,
reason why the reason why that you haven't found somebody yet is because we all know the truth is that we don't hold the cards because we are in energy with other people. We can feel that within the ring with somebody that like we're not in control of all of this. Like, and you can feel that being in there fighting somebody is the ultimate spiritual experience. You know what I mean? And so like you can feel like you need that protection and you need that to be along. And it's kind of a funny thing because if it's like we both believe in God, it's like, it's like, oh, like, well, like, who does he favor more? You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah,
You know what I mean? But the truth of the matter is we're all in different stages in our spiritual journey. And that
100%.
my daughter wants to take a cameo. Hi, say hey. She's been you've been too gone too long.
Hello.
I'm almost done, baby. Okay, I'm almost done. All
I
right.
love the cameo.
Uh,
I have three kids as well. I
yeah,
have a daughter and two boys.
yeah, same. And then we got one on the way. So I
God
have a
bless, bro.
daughter and yeah, a daughter and two boys, and now we got one more boy on the way. So, but anyways, I mean, I think we're all in our different spiritual journeys, and obviously, he's has to go through these things to be able to experience whatever we need at that particular moment. So, when somebody uses or it doesn't go in their way, maybe that's a learning lesson for them to
Yep.
be able to experience something different, whatever that journey is. Like for instance, Daniel Jacobson, he lost, right? And now he feels like, you know what, I maybe shouldn't do this anymore, right?
Yep.
And that is a stage in his career where he is at. I feel like, I can go get a world title now, right?
Yep.
And that's the stage that I'm at. And we're all, and God is working on us in different stages and in different areas in our lives at that particular time. And I think he does it through what we love to do, which is boxing.
100%, man. And I love that. That's why I feel the need to always ask that, because I feel like I have a platform now and I need to talk about Jesus as much as I possibly can, because I do love him. And I do think that the world is in disarray for sure. So I always want to bring it up, and I'm glad that you believe, brother. Just keep doing what you're doing. God bless you. And again, come back on the show. I appreciate you came on in the first place.
Gotcha.
We're so happy to have Shane Mosley Jr. on here. And Shane, if you have any upcoming fights, please let us know. We'll post, we'll repost. I'd love to have you on the show again. But I'm looking for a world title fight in your next fight, bro.
Yes, you will. You'll see it.
God bless, man.
All
Thanks for coming
right,
on.
man. Peace.